Okay, so we kind of went through that nicely and quick. Any questions? Do any of you have any questions for me? Anything that you really want to delve into and challenge me today?
Amazing. Well, first of all, I would like to start by thanking you for your presentation. Even the behavioral aspects, like looking up to the left or looking down, I have never paused to consider that. So that is a real thinker for me.
That's really great. That's a great question. So I would do really all three. Website is easy, accessible. It's going to kind of give you a quick overview, right? You'll have like the Cliff Notes 101 on what the company's about. If you can, if you're on LinkedIn, LinkedIn is a great resource, especially if you're looking specifically for a person, the company as well. So those of you who aren't familiar with LinkedIn, when you go in there, you're going to have the option to view a company and or the individuals that are employed at the company. So I recommend that you do both. And then that allows you really to find out a little bit about that person who might be interviewing you and support you in a comfort level so that when you go in and you say, so nice to meet you, Kira. I noticed that you have this accomplishment, that you just received this certificate, that your company has just been awarded X, right? That you're innovators. Employers like to know the job that they're doing. They want to obviously be applauded for that, but there is any employer that's on here right now is not going to appreciate me saying this, but there's ego involved when you're an entrepreneur. Like that's the reality, right? So we all want to know that we're doing a good job, but those kudos that we can offer up and say, hey, you know what? If you're looking at an environmental company, I noticed that you were just awarded in the US for X. That must be such an accomplishment, right? That allows you, the rule of thumb is the interviewee should be speaking 80% of the time. The interviewer should be speaking 20% of the time. Sometimes that's a challenge for the interviewer if they're not accustomed to interviewing. We all know that, right? Kira's got the smile on her face. Yes, she's been, right? So, but that happens, right? And you're like, can I just apply for the job? Like I just get a word in. So back to your question, Hannah, website, looking for the person or people specifically that are employed or that are going to interview you, and anything in the news that is favorable, right? You don't want to like make note of something that was not a favorable situation that happened in the company that they landed in the news for, right? Financial attributes, huge success. Wow, you have I noticed that you have such a huge growth over X amount of time. That really needs to be applauded. Be careful on your schmoozing is what I call it. Like don't be over the top, like be still respectful and honest. You know, I'm going, I really appreciate this in this company. This is why I would want to work with this company, right? We have to remember, as much as you're applying for it and they're looking for someone, you're building a relationship, and it's very much like a date. Like that is the cold truth of that, right? On what that fit looks like. So again, that 80-20 rule of behavior versus skill, we want to make sure we like the person that we're bringing into the company, and the person who's coming into the company wants to make sure it's a place that they want to call home. Always, you should, if you can come with a series of questions in hand already, you know, and it might be one or two, it doesn't have to be a lot, but come in hand with those. So you might have some from that research and also about the position itself. Ask them at the end. Hopefully the interviewer is going to ask you, do you have any questions? That would be hopefully the way it's going to evolve. If it doesn't, then just respectfully say, if you don't mind, I have a couple of questions for you. but you'll also have probably a couple questions through the interview itself. So if you, another tip, believe it or not, this is very impressive that people like, is if you come with a notebook in hand. If you're paying attention, that shows your attentiveness. That shows that you're being present, and you can be writing some notes and saying, okay, I've asked a question about X, right? So what kind of questions, Kira? They could be just standard from what is the position, expectations, simplicity down to time and attendance, expertise that's expected, as far as like the qualifications. A really good question for you to ask would be, what would you be looking specifically for that person to bring to the table to enhance your business overall? That allows you to dig a little bit deeper, because as an interviewer, I tend to ask that question to the interviewee. So what can you, excuse me, what are you bringing to the table to enhance my business portfolio, to take it to the next level, to be better at? And I know it's a very pointed question, but it is important because it allows us to differentiate what one person has over the other. Again, it's the behavior, right? Be disciplined again in what you feel that you have above and beyond your competition, right? So think about the best competition out there. They're kind of coming for an interview just right after you. So you have to show your best, right? If you have that mindset, you're going to show your best, and you're going to say, you need to pick me because I'm your person. I'm the person that's going to take you to the next level, right? But be honest in it. Like, don't say it and then you can't follow through on it, right? And just being really honest on what's happened. You know, it's really that simple. Whether that's, you know, due to circumstance, whether it's due to school, whether it's you couldn't find a job, whether it's to a health reason, right? Like I just, you know, maybe you're raising children. There's a wealth of reasons why people have a gap in their resume, especially through pandemic time too. It allowed that, right? I do not get hung up on that. That's kind of an old school. I'll be frank with you, that's an old school. More progressive companies, they'll ask, you know, I noticed a gap in your resume. Can I ask what happened? And just be forthcoming. You know, and it has a lot of weight when you're just honest. I know I feel like I'm beating that drum a lot today, but it is really, there's so much value in that, because with that honesty comes your integrity, comes your trust. Those three things are married to each other, and that's who we want to have working for our companies. That is a great question, Hannah. Yes, for sure. So the same thing applies. If they're distracted, they're not interested. So unfortunately, you have two ways to go. You could just go with the flow, or you can try to bring them back around. People love to talk about themselves. That's just who we are as humans, right? We like to tell our story. So the more engaged that you can get that employer so that they're interested in you, the more that you need to. But please do not take it personal if they are distracted, if they're looking at their phone, if they're doing something like that. You know, it goes both ways. So there's poor interviewers too. There's just not poor interviewees, there's poor interviewers. So challenging people to pay attention. Sorry, let me reword this. How we challenge people to pay attention is by either repeating a question or getting confirmation. So if they ask the question and you say whatever your answer is, and they're distracted, just bring them back around and say, so Bob, did that answer the question for you? Would you like me to add anything on that? And then they're like, oh, they're paying attention, right? So then it kind of puts them back in the spot too. So distraction's a big thing I find with interviewers. Just because somebody's interviewing does not mean they're skilled at it. Any more skilled than you are as an interviewer coming into it. So having some empathy in that. Sometimes they're very nervous. So sometimes you might be on the other side and you might have to get them to mirror you, right? The easiest thing to do is to get someone to mirror you is when you cross your leg. So it's different, obviously, on screen. What we have to do, you'd have to do something with your hand, right? That's what we did. But sitting in front of someone, if you cross your leg and if you don't see anything, remove your leg, cross the other leg, and eventually, well, we just do it. You guys are going to have so much fun with this. You're going to be out at a pub or something, and you're going to be trying to get people to mirror you. But that's really how it works. Yeah. You know, we can go on YouTube and watch all those I Am Awesome motivating videos. I don't know if you've ever seen the one of the little 4-year-old girl on the sink where she talks about how awesome she is. It's one of my favorite things that kind of gears me up, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what happens from the time we're 4 to now? Like you kind of get beaten down. So, you know, I know that's a fun tip, but really just that self-talk is so important going in. And knowing, like really knowing that these are your strengths, and it could be one strength. You don't have to have 15 strengths. It's just one strength that is going to be what they need. And if you're really passionate about the position, and I'm going to voice this loudly as well, I know we all need a job and we all need to make money and have a roof over our head, and I appreciate that. But when you love what you're doing and you went to school for it, or you're very passionate about something, it feels different in your bones. It does. Butterflies, somebody was mentioning today about butterflies, right? So that those butterflies are saying, I'm so excited. Those butterflies are anticipation. So if you can locate that nervousness and what it might appear as lack of self-confidence, am I good enough for the job? And locate it between I'm not interested, I'm just getting it for the job, or the anticipation because I'm so passionate, I want this so bad. It's okay to say to the interviewer, I am so nervous today because I'm so excited to have the opportunity to sit in front of you and have the possibility of starting my career with you. So again, it doesn't matter if it's one strength or a million strengths. Bring that one strength up. Know it. It's like when you know, if I was talking today to all of you about accounting, I would be tripping over myself because I'm not an accountant, right? I don't know the subject. I'm not passionate about it. But to be talking to you all about human behavior and you all starting your careers and being the leaders of tomorrow, that lights my fire. So think about that when you go out into that interview. I have this, and this, and I'm confident in my soul that I can do this. You're going to have stuff that you're going to learn for sure. And you can let them know, I don't know that. I don't have experience in that, but I am so passionate about learning it. And if I'm given the opportunity, I promise you, I will show up every day and get better and better and better. Nobody's expecting any of you, I promise you, to be the best of the best 100% when you haven't had the experience behind you. That is an unrealistic expectation. So if any employers are out there listening to me, you just got schooled too. So
I
view that good or bad, Lily? What did you want?
good, preferably good.
Good. Yeah, you know what I do, and it was back in my corporate years, and it was at I had an office location, and I had a young gentleman, it's probably 2021, fairly young guy, and he, bad could be funny, this is true. And he showed up the very first time and asked for a job. I said, I'm just not hiring right now. And he had a suit on, believe it or not, that was a little bit too big. Pants were a little bit too long, the sleeves were a little bit too long, but he was really, really trying. And I said, I'm just not, his name was Michael. Michael, I'm just not hiring, we'll keep you in mind. Thanks so much for your resume. And this young man came back every day for 2 weeks. Are you hiring today? Can you just give me an opportunity? I'll work for free. I'll have, if I can have a working interview, you don't even have to pay me, just so that I can show you that I really, really want to work for you. After 2 weeks, he got the job. After 6 months, he was one of my top employees in my district of Western Canada. And he eventually went from a sales associate to a store manager, because the passion and the dedication and the discipline, he wore me down. I'm like, I might as well put you on payroll because you're going to be here every day. And he really showed up, and he was there, and it was always before even the store would open. So that was probably one of the best stories that I could share with you that showed, I really want, if you just get, and he had no experience. On his paper, on the resume, he had no business applying for the position on paper, but he just said, give me a chance. And I give him a chance, right? So that, I hope, also allows everybody to know your dedication, your passion, your perseverance to do something. That behavior speaks volumes upon volumes of somebody that's going to come in, your competition, that's going to come in and go, but my resume says I had this, and this, and this. But if you don't have the personality and the behavior and the charisma and the desire to move forward, you're going to be one more person, right? That's what's going to make you stand out. One of the bad ones for me would be, and this is probably a tip too, all in one, is if you've had a bad past employer experience, don't share that in your interview. So I had, this has happened a few times, but one in particular, a woman was applying for a position, and I said, what would your last employer say? Would your last employer hire you back? It was some sort of a canned question. And she had said, probably not, because I charged them with sexual harassment. And I went, oh. And I said, well, what about the employer before? Well, he was pretty handsy too. And I laid a lawsuit against him. So all I'm thinking is, if I hire you, it's not going to happen maybe for me, but it's going to happen to one of my male colleagues, right? So it was, there's just the reality of, you always have a bad boss. It's probably not the boss. I'm going to be really honest here, right? So just don't share information unnecessary with still a stranger, right? So just don't share that. I didn't have my past employer probably wouldn't hire me back. We just disagreed, or we didn't end on great terms, and I just would prefer not to share. You can say those things, right? But just don't tell all sometimes, right? So that would probably be one of the not so great interviews I've had. Not so great interviews on virtually would be people not being dressed appropriately at all. And then stuff happening behind them that I beds and dogs running through, and it just, like, there's so many distractions. right? Yeah. So, yeah, that would probably be my, yeah, there's a few not great ones. I will let you know though, as a headhunter, as talent acquisition, I usually let the interviewee know at the end if I'm not passing them through the next part of the screening as a favor. And I just feel like that's a discipline that I'm able to do. And I can talk lots, as all three of you know, that I want to educate and say, just to give you a heads up, please don't do this, this, and this in your next interview. And people are appreciative. I'm not, I'm not being motherly or anything like that. I'm just simply saying, this doesn't favor you well. Right? Yeah.
Well, that was wonderful that we got a 2-in-1 out of that.
You got it. You got a 2-in-1. Yeah, for sure.
Perfect. Well, I feel like we've taken up lots of your time today, but thank you so much for joining us and sharing all of your expertise and your stories. It was super informative. I feel like we're all ready to rock any future interviews that come our way.
Great. So wonderful sharing some time with all of you today. And I feel completely honored and grateful for this time and you asking me to be part of your world right now. So to all the leaders out there tomorrow, go out, hack the interview, be honest, lead with empathy, and be yourself. You're awesome. You're so awesome, just who you are. So show the world that.
Well, thanks again. It was really great to meet you, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.